It started as just another feel-good education segment on The Tonight Show, until a retired teacher revealed the heartbreaking truth about a lifetime spent shaping young minds. The Tonight Show studio was warm with energy from celebrating America's unsung heroes. Jimmy Fallon had finished interviewing innovative teachers, and the audience was buzzing with appreciation. During what was supposed to be the closing, Jimmy noticed an elderly woman in the front row who hadn't been clapping or smiling. Instead, she sat quietly with tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. She was perhaps 68, with silver gray hair in a neat bun, wearing a navy cardigan over a white blouse. Something about her careful attention to the education discussion suggested this wasn't just any audience member. "Ma'am," Jimmy said gently, walking toward her, "are you okay? I noticed you seemed moved by our education discussion." The woman looked up with eyes that held decades of wisdom and, surprisingly, profound sadness. "I'm sorry, Mr. Fallon, I didn't mean to draw attention. It's just, listening to these teachers being celebrated made me remember something I've tried to forget." Jimmy knelt beside her row. "What's your name?" "Eleanor Anderson. Mrs. Anderson to about 10,000 children over the years." "You're a teacher," Jimmy said as recognition. "I was a teacher. Retired 3 years ago after 45 years. In the classroom, 4th grade mostly. 45 years. That's incredible. You've probably influenced more lives than most people could imagine." Eleanor's smile became sadder. "That's just it, Mr. Fallon. I don't know if I influenced anyone at all." The words hung in the air like a confession that surprised everyone, including Eleanor herself. She hadn't intended to share this burden with a studio full of strangers, but something about Jimmy's genuine interest and the celebration of education had opened a door she usually kept tightly closed. "What do you mean?" Jimmy asked gently, rising to his feet but staying close to Eleanor's section. Eleanor looked around the studio, then continued. 45 years of teaching children to read, write, think, dream. I gave everything to those children. I spent my own money on supplies, stayed after hours to tutor, went to their games and plays. I missed family dinners and my own children's milestones because there was always another child who needed help." The studio was quiet, recognizing something profound was happening. "And in 45 years, Eleanor said, her voice breaking, not one of them has ever come back to say hello. Not one wedding invitation, graduation announcement, phone call, or letter to say thank you or I remember you." Jimmy felt his eyes filling with tears as he understood Eleanor's pain. "I know it sounds selfish," Eleanor continued. "I wasn't teaching for gratitude. I did love it. But sometimes, especially since retiring, I wonder if any of it mattered. I wonder if I was just a forgettable adult who made them do homework. I wonder if 45 years of my life made any difference at all." The audience was crying now, many of them thinking of their own teachers, their own memories of educators who had shaped their lives in ways they had never properly acknowledged. Jimmy was quiet for a moment, processing not just Eleanor's words, but the profound loneliness they revealed. Here was a woman who had dedicated her entire adult life to serving others, who had sacrificed her own comfort and convenience for the betterment of thousands of children, and she had spent her retirement wondering if any of it had mattered. "Mrs. Anderson," Jimmy said finally, "I need to tell you something, and I need everyone here to understand this. What you just described, feeling forgotten, feeling like your work didn't matter, that breaks my heart, but more than that, it tells me something important about you." Eleanor looked at Jimmy with curiosity. "It tells me that you were exactly the kind of teacher every child deserves," Jimmy continued, "because you cared so much about their success that you never demanded recognition for your part in it. You were so focused on lifting them up that you never insisted they turn around and acknowledge you." Jimmy stood up and addressed the studio. "How many of you had a teacher who changed your life? Nearly every hand went up immediately. Keep them up if you've properly thanked that teacher in the last 10 years. Most hands dropped, leaving only a few raised. Mrs. Anderson, what we just witnessed isn't a reflection of your impact. It's human nature. We get busy, move on, take for granted the people who shaped us because their influence becomes part of who we are. Jimmy walked to his desk and picked up his phone. But here's what I want to do. With your permission, I want to try something that's never been done on this show before. Eleanor looked nervous. What do you mean? I want to find your students, Jimmy said simply. I want to use social media, the power of this platform, and the help of everyone watching to track down some of the thousands of children you taught over 45 years. I want to give them the chance to tell you what you meant to them. Eleanor's eyes went wide. Mr. Fallon, that's impossible. I taught in 3 different states. Some of those children are in their 50s now. They have their own lives, their own families, their own problems. They won't remember one 4th grade teacher from decades ago. You want to bet? Jimmy asked with that mischievous grin that had launched 1,000 viral moments. Because I have a feeling that Mrs. Eleanor Anderson made more of an impression than she realizes. Jimmy turned to the cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, we need your help. If you're watching this, if you know someone who might have been taught by Mrs. Eleanor Anderson, she taught mostly 4th grade in schools in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania between 1975 and 2020. We want to hear from them. He held up a sign that appeared on screen with social media hashtags. Use hashtag Mrs. Anderson Students and tell us how this remarkable woman influenced your life. Share your memories, your stories, your gratitude, because Mrs. Anderson deserves to know that 45 years of dedication didn't go unnoticed. Eleanor was shaking her head in amazement. Mr. Fallon, this is too much. You don't understand. It's been 3 years. If they wanted to reach out, they would have by now. Mrs. Anderson, Jimmy said gently, sometimes people don't reach out not because they don't care, but because they don't know how. Sometimes they assume you know how much you meant to them. Sometimes they're intimidated by the idea of contacting a teacher they admired so much. And sometimes they just need an invitation to share their gratitude. Behind the scenes, Jimmy's social media team was already working their magic. The hashtag number sign Mrs. Anderson Students was trending within minutes, and responses were beginning to pour in from across the country. Jimmy's social media team was working their magic. Hashtag Mrs. Anderson Students was trending within minutes. While we wait, Jimmy said, tell us about a favorite teaching memory. Eleanor's face lit up. A little boy named Marcus in 1987. Middle of the year, parents divorcing, acting out terribly. I noticed he drew beautiful pictures during recess, so I gave him art projects and entered one in a district contest without telling him. He won first place. Completely transformed him. Do you know what happened to Marcus? No idea. I put my heart into helping him find himself, then he disappeared into the world. Jimmy's phone buzzed. Mrs. Anderson, we've received over 5,000 responses in 10 minutes. Listen to this. Mrs. Anderson, 4th grade, 1983. You taught me being different was okay. I'm a successful artist now. My name is Marcus Williams. Eleanor's hands flew to her mouth. Marcus, my Marcus. Jimmy grinned. Mrs. Anderson, I think your Marcus wants to talk to you. Within minutes, Jimmy's team had Marcus Williams on video call. He appeared on the studio's large screen. A successful man in his 40s with kind eyes and the same creative spirit Eleanor remembered from his childhood. Mrs. Anderson, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Is that really you? Eleanor was sobbing as she looked at the screen. Marcus. Oh my goodness, Marcus, you're all grown up. Mrs. Anderson, I've been looking for you for years, Marcus said. I've wanted to thank you for changing my life, but I could never find you. You were right about the art, by the way. I'm a graphic designer now, and I teach art classes to at-risk kids. Everything I do is because you saw something in me when I couldn't see it in myself." The studio audience was openly weeping as they witnessed this reunion between teacher and student across decades and distance. "Marcus," Eleanor whispered, "you remember me?" "Remember you?" Marcus laughed through his tears. "Mrs. Anderson, you're the reason I became who I am. When you entered my drawing in that contest, when you told me I was talented, when you saw past my anger to the scared kid underneath, you didn't just teach me art, you taught me that I was worth believing in." Jimmy wiped his eyes and looked at Eleanor. "Mrs. Anderson, Marcus is just the first. We've got teachers, doctors, lawyers, parents, artists, dozens of your former students who want to thank you. They've been out there all along, living successful lives, raising good children, making the world better because of what you taught them." Over the next hour, The Tonight Show became something unprecedented, a live reunion between a teacher and the lives she had shaped. Student after student appeared via video call, each with their own story of how Mrs. Eleanor Anderson had influenced their path. There was Sarah, now a pediatric nurse, who credited Eleanor with teaching her to be patient with difficult people. There was David, a successful businessman, who said Eleanor's lessons about integrity had guided his career decisions. There was Maria, a mother of 3, who still used Eleanor's techniques to help her own children with homework. Each story revealed not just the impact Eleanor had made, but the ripple effects that continued to spread through generations. Her students had become teachers, parents, leaders, and advocates, passing on the lessons they had learned in her 4th grade classroom. But perhaps the most moving moment came when a woman named Jennifer appeared on screen holding a framed photo. "Mrs. Anderson," Jennifer said, "I don't know if you remember me. I was in your class in 1992. I was the shy girl who never spoke up, who sat in the back corner and tried to be invisible." Eleanor nodded immediately. "Jennifer Mitchell. Of course I remember you. You were so bright, but so afraid to let anyone see it." "That's right," Jennifer smiled, "and you did something for me that I've never forgotten. When I was too scared to read aloud in class, you created a special reading corner where I could practice privately with you. You never made me feel stupid or broken. You just met me where I was and helped me find my voice." Jennifer held up the framed photo. "This is my daughter, Emma. She's 8 years old, and she's shy just like I was. But when she started struggling in school, I remembered what you taught me, that every child learns differently, that every child has something valuable to contribute, that patience and kindness can unlock potential that even the child doesn't know they have." She paused, collecting herself. "Mrs. Anderson, because of how you treated me, I was able to help my daughter find her confidence. Your influence didn't stop with me. It's living on in Emma and in every child I've been able to help because of what I learned from you." Eleanor was overwhelmed, unable to speak through her tears of joy and amazement. For 3 years, she had lived with the belief that her career had been forgotten, that her impact had been minimal, that 45 years of dedication had disappeared into the void of human indifference. But in one evening, she learned the truth. Her influence had been multiplying quietly for decades. Every student she had taught had carried her lessons forward, passing them on to their own children, their own students, their own communities. Jimmy looked at Eleanor, then at the camera. "Mrs. Anderson, what you're experiencing tonight is what every great teacher deserves to know, that your work doesn't end when students leave your classroom. It continues in every life you touch, in every lesson you teach, in every moment of kindness and patience and belief you offer to a child who needs it." He turned to address the viewers. "And to everyone watching who had a teacher like Mrs. Anderson, don't wait. Find them. Thank them. Tell them how they influenced your life, because teachers like Eleanor give everything to help children succeed, and they deserve to know that their sacrifice mattered. The show ended with something beautiful. Eleanor, surrounded by a wall of screens showing dozens of her former students, all of them saying, "Thank you, Mrs. Anderson," in unison. It was a moment of recognition and gratitude that spanned decades and touched thousands of lives. 6 months later, Eleanor Anderson published a book called The Lesson I Never Taught, about her experience and the importance of acknowledging the teachers in our lives. All proceeds went to a foundation providing supplies and support for underfunded classrooms. But perhaps more importantly, Eleanor returned to teaching, not in a traditional classroom, but as a mentor for new teachers, sharing the wisdom of 45 years and helping them understand that their impact extends far beyond what they can see or measure. And every year, on the anniversary of her Tonight Show appearance, Eleanor receives hundreds of messages from former students who have used hashtag Mrs. Anderson students to continue sharing their gratitude and their own stories of how one teacher's dedication shaped their lives. Because Eleanor Anderson learned that night what every great teacher should know, that the most important lessons we teach are often the ones students don't realize they're learning. And the greatest impact we make is often the one we never see coming back to us. Sometimes it just takes 45 years and a television studio full of strangers to remind us that dedication and love always matter, even when we think no one is paying attention.